Eli, you're making way too much noise for this video.
Yeah, we can get that one.
Yeah, we're gonna keep that.
When it's sink or swim, you got to drink to win. And if I drink this in, everybody will know it.
I started the nonprofit organization in 2012. Actually, it was just more like a team. So it was more like just getting a group of people together and trying to raise awareness of what autism was. When I found out Eli was diagnosed with autism, it was in March of 2012, and he was turning 2 in May. I didn't know anything about autism, so it's like one of those out of sight, out of mind type of things, and one of those things that if you're not directly affected by it, you don't really pay it no mind. So then once he was diagnosed, I started to look into autism and what children with autism or children on the spectrum, how they learn and what obstacles, I would be facing moving forward. So I built a team. We went to the Autism Walk in April, and we started doing different community events to just get the community aware of what autism was and that my son was on the autism spectrum. So that was pretty much how it started. I didn't actually apply for my 501c3 until 2017. So we were just a team for 5 years until I decided to make it a nonprofit organization and actually benefit from it. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much why I started it, because my son was diagnosed with autism and I didn't know much about it. So I just kind of like built my community around me and strengthened them to help them become aware with me. Yeah. So that's why I started it. As far as being a mom, I don't think if I didn't have an autistic child, I wouldn't be such a great mom. Like, it's crazy, but it's true. Like, I'm not even gonna say be such a great mom. I don't think I would be such a great person. Because everybody goes through different things. Everybody goes through obstacles, but most of the things that I go through, most of the things that I learned through teaching my son. And it requires patience, it requires understanding, it requires a lot of nonverbal communication, which we all tend to do. Like, a lot of the things that we feel, a lot of the things that we go through, we don't vocalize. And we expect people to just understand what we're feeling and understand how they made us feel and understand how something affected us, but we're not built that way. And I don't think if I didn't have my son that I would understand those type of things. And a lot of people get upset and frustrated with me for being so understanding in those type of situations, but it's really because I understand nonverbal communication. And that's a lot of, even though Eli can speak now, he's 11, so even though he can speak and he does have, a little bit more language in his vocabulary, it's still super easy for me to understand what he's feeling or see that he's feeling. Even if it's something I don't understand, I know it's different. I know it's not typical for someone to act or behave this way. So it's easier for me to kind of channel into that.
When did he start to learn to communicate? Because for everybody who doesn't know, Eli, it took him a little while to learn how to develop language.
Okay, so if we're talking about actual voice and diction, he was about 5 before he actually. So he started out babbling, right? And he would mimic words, but it was nothing with meaningful intent. So he could repeat something that you said, but it was no meaningful intent behind it. So I would say that he was about 5 before he kind of knew. I remember when Eli was younger, that was one of the tests the psychologist gave him. Was he was 1.5, and it was like you had to turn the key, you had to like push one of the buttons, pull one of the buttons down, you had to press one of the buttons, you had to kind of open a toy. So it was so many different parts. And they only expected him at 1.5 to do simple things like up and down, or press the button to make the light go up and things like that. Those things he wouldn't do. There was the other things that they thought he couldn't do that he was so much interested in, like he was turning the thing, and they kind of wrote that in the note. Like, he was so advanced in the things that he shouldn't have been doing at 1.5 years. He utilized the toy, and he utilized certain parts of the toy that we didn't expect him to use. And then the parts that we expect him to have with no problem, to get with no problem, he can understand it. But that's life. Like, we go to school, we have math, science, language, arts, or whatever, and not every child is good in everything. There's some children that's great in math and not good in reading and writing. So you just have to kind of like you did with the toy, give it to her and see where she's at for herself, and then build on that. And that's what most parents should do, versus putting a hold on where their children are.
Aware of this until after the production of this. What do you think about? Because I saw a couple of things on like Twitter, Instagram about the puzzle piece. What do you like? A lot of people say, I don't know the reason, but do you have anything like any problems with the puzzle piece about it?
I know so many people that have different problems with so many different symbols. And if you read into anything, you read too much into anything, you're gonna find a problem with something. But I think the puzzle piece, kind of relates to the misconception of autism, like the missing piece to the puzzle. I think people use that, and it's like the rainbow for the LGBT community. The rainbow is such a beautiful thing. The rainbow is such a, it was used as this beautiful thing to represent rain, then it turned into luck, then it turned into a whole bunch of other things. And then when people use it as a sign of difference, or then other people have a problem with it, but their intent wasn't bad. So I think the puzzle piece, to me, it's a significant piece to this I don't want to say disability, I want to say this adversity. Because many people can kind of correlate and understand why they kind of use that piece to signify autism.
Any advice to any parents with children with autism?
I think my advice wouldn't just be channeled to parents with children with autism. I think it would be just to parents in general, would be to listen to your children. They saying stuff. Children are pure. They keep us alive. They're the reason. I like to say they're the ability to live twice. Like, all the wrongs that we've done in our life. I've had 35 years on this earth, and I've done a lot, and I've been influenced a lot by different people, whether it be my parents or my siblings or my elders or school or wherever. I've been influenced. Children don't have that much influence. So I say, listen to them. They're saying something. They're our future. And don't put a cap on them. They're the most honest things we have in our life. Like, they don't have the ability to lie like we do, because we think about it. We have these premeditated or preconceived ideas of what things are supposed to be, and they're just raw. And 9 out of 10 times you need them raw. Like, if you ever have a pet, a pet doesn't talk like a pet. So you kind of, that's honestly how I learned how to deal with Eli. When I had a dog, I actually watched how the dog moved. I knew when the dog was hungry. I knew when the dog had to use the bathroom. I knew when the dog was fearful of someone. I knew when the dog didn't trust someone. I knew when the dog smelled something funny that I couldn't smell. So there was so many different dynamics of this non-verbal language. And children, a year or younger, when they're not very vocal, they're still saying stuff. I say pay attention to your children, because they will teach you more than what adults or your peers or whoever can teach you. So that'd be my advice. But I want to give a special piece of advice to parents who their children may be on the spectrum and they don't know that their children are on the spectrum because they don't want their children to be on the spectrum. And parents that are afraid of having a diagnosis or putting a label on their children. Labels are just for people to understand what you're actually talking about. Labels are not to define you as a person, because even autism can't define each child under the spectrum.
Yeah.
So every child is different. So a label is just, black is just for me to identify what we're both seeing at the same time. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't have any meaning until you give it meaning. So by someone telling you, if a teacher comes to you or another parent or friend or family member comes to you and tells you, look, have you ever thought about getting your child evaluated? It's not a attack against you. It's that they're seeing something with their set of eyes that you might have not seen, or you might have overlooked, or there might be more experience in an area to recognize certain things. And that doesn't make your child disabled or less than or anything like that. Identifying that ahead of time will just put you at an advantage to get your child the services they need before it gets too late. It's like you miss some steps in the beginning. Anytime in the beginning of anything, if you don't complete all the necessary steps, you kind of like miss out on them throughout the rest of your life. And like I said earlier, like I kind of always revert back to Eli when I'm explaining something, even when it's life, and it had nothing to do with autism. When he was younger, he never crawled. So at 11 years old, sometimes people will see him try to pick up something as small as a penny, and they're like, come on, just pick it up. And they would get frustrated with him, but he didn't develop fine motor skills. So he skipped that step. So he missed out on crawling. So now as he gets older, he's going to have a little bit more trouble with fine motor skills. Writing, picking up things, putting yarn into a bead or something like that. Something so that we take for granted. He has to deal with some complications with some, difficulty with. And that's just like everything in life. The moment you miss a step, you kind of grow up not having certain skills or certain things in life because you missed that step. And that would be my advice to parents. Don't miss that step. Like, don't allow your feelings to control, don't allow your feelings to control your decisions. That would be it.
Yeah, cause when it's sink or swim, you got to think to win. And if I drink this in, everybody will know it.